In this assignment, you will build a worksheet that compares full absorption costing, GAAP-based accounting, with variable costing, in which fixed manufacturing overhead is treated as a period cost rather than as a product cost under GAAP accounting. In building this worksheet, we're required to create data tables, use Excel's data validation feature to check a dollar amount, and also use Excel's data validation feature to create a drop-down list, as well as to format a text field. Let's go ahead and take a look at the worksheet. In building the worksheet, input fields are indicated in green, and the yellow fields indicate cells where you're going to need to use an Excel formula to calculate an amount. And we're going to calculate and compare a full absorption GAAP-based income statement with a variable costing income statement, and also build data tables that show how our average cost per unit and net operating income will change based on our level of production. Let's go ahead and build our worksheet, keeping in mind that the values you see on this worksheet are based on these particular inputs, and the inputs that you will use are different. First, our total variable cost per unit for manufacturing is $25 per unit. That's our direct materials plus our direct labor and our manufacturing overhead. Let's go ahead then and move on down. We've got some selling administrative costs per unit, variable and fixed. And then we are told we have zero beginning inventory. We produce 23,000 and we sell 20,000 units. So our total manufacturing cost will be our $25 per unit multiplied by the 23,000 units we produce, plus our 450,000 in fixed manufacturing overhead. Our average cost per unit under GAAP for full absorption costing will be our 1,025,000 divided by the 23,000 units we produced, or 44.56 per unit. Our ending inventory will be the 23,000 units we produced minus the 20,000 we sold, giving us 3,000 in ending inventory, the value of which will be the 3,000 units multiplied by our 44.56 per unit cost. Our cost of goods sold will be our 44.56 per unit cost multiplied by the 20,000 units we sell. Notice a pop-up box here that says use Excel's data validation feature to ensure this total equals your total manufacturing cost. If we by mistake picked up only our cost of goods sold, Excel will indicate that the valid entry or number we've indicated or input is invalid and will suggest we retry the amount. This is because we've used Excel's data validation feature. Let's take a look at that feature now. From your main menu, up top, go to Data, Validation, and again select Data Validation. We've got a Settings tab, an Input Message tab, and an Error Alert. First thing, if you click on the Input Message tab, notice this is where I typed in the input message requesting you to use Excel's Data Validation feature. On the Settings tab is where we're going to actually do our work in this case. We want to allow not whole numbers, but rather decimal values. And we want the value we input into this cell to equal, and we've got a number of choices, equal to, greater than, not equal to, etc. But we want it to equal to the value that we have in cell D9, which was our total manufacturing cost, and we can hit OK. Now, if we do indicate or input a value equal to the 1,025,000, Excel will accept the answer. For income statement, sales $80 per unit times 20,000 units. Our cost of goods sold will be that same 20,000 units multiplied by 44.56 per unit, giving us a gross margin of 1.6 million minus the 891,000 or 708,000. Our selling expense, we've got a fixed and a variable component, equals 20,000 units sold times the $4 per unit variable component plus the 200,000 fixed. Our admin cost, 20,000 units times $1 per unit plus the 75,000 fixed. This gives us net operating income of our gross margin 708 minus 280 minus 95 of $333,696. Let's go ahead and build our variable manufacturing cost income statement. Our variable manufacturing cost per unit is simply the $25 per unit multiplied by the number of units produced, which was 23,000. Our cost per unit is 25. Our ending inventory is the 23,000 produced minus the 20,000 sold. Our ending inventory value will be 3,000 units multiplied by $25 per unit. Our variable cost of goods sold is our 20,000 units sold multiplied by $25 per unit. And again, use Excel's data validation feature to ensure that the cost that we have accounted for equals our total variable manufacturing cost. For our income statement, sales will be the 20,000 units times $80 per unit. Our cost of goods sold will include both our fixed and variable components. So 20,000 units sold multiplied by $25 per unit plus our fixed manufacturing overhead of 450,000, giving us a gross margin of $650,000. Our selling expense will be our 20,000 units again, multiplied by $4 per unit, plus 200,000 in fixed cost. Our admin will be the 20,000 multiplied by $1 per unit, plus the 75,000 in fixed administrative cost, giving us a net operating income of 650,000 gross profit minus 280 minus 95, a gross profit of $275,000. Next, we're going to build our data tables. We want to know how our average cost per unit and our net operating income change as the number of units produced changes. At the top of our data table, we want to link to our values or output cells of interest, which again was average cost per unit of $44.56, our net operating income of $333,000. Now we want to see how these values change as we change the number of units produced. Highlight the cells that include our changes in units produced and our output variables, average cost per unit and net operating income. Then we go up to our main menu, select Data, What If, and then Data Tables. Our inputs are in a column, so we want to change this column input cell. We are going to want to put the values that are in this column into cell D12, which was where our units produced shows up on our worksheet. We hit OK, and our table builds out, showing us that as our level of production increases, our average cost per unit goes down as we spread our fixed manufacturing cost out over more units, and our reported net operating income goes up under full absorption accounting. Under variable accounting, let's pick up our average cost per unit. Let's pick up our net operating income, and let's build out our data table. Again, highlighting the cells that include our column inputs and our output variables. Go up to the main menu, Data, What If, Data Table, and again, we have a column inputs. We want those values into, once again, cell D12, and our table builds out. And again, variable costing, our average cost per unit remains constant, and our net operating income remains constant. So, answering our question, under full absorption accounting, what happens to net operating income as production increases? Our net operating income increases. I would like you to create a drop-down menu to indicate this choice of NOI increases or decreases. To do this, once again, we'll use our data validation feature. Main menu, Data, Data Validation. Our input this time, it's not a whole number, it's not a decimal, but rather a list. And we are going to create the list right here. And it's going to be NOI increases, comma, NOI decreases. We also could have referred to an external list, NOI increases, NOI decreases. we would go to our cell, data, data validation, and we would refer to the cells we're interested in. If I include the blank cell above the list, then for my drop-down menu, I can have a blank value, NOI increases or NOI decreases. As I change these, my list selections would also change. Finally, the last thing, I want you to answer why, and I want you to create a wrapped text box such as this, so our answer shows up in the upper left-hand corner. To do this, highlight the cells that you want to merge together. From the home menu, select Merge and Center, and Merge and Center, sure enough, would center text in the text box, but we wanted it to be to the left-hand side and at the top. Also, we're going to want to select Wrap Text, so if we have more than one line, it will wrap around, and then left-hand side and top